So here's the deal. This is the county convention, which is great, because everybody here is from Creek County, but we also have a state convention, and that's where we pick our state officers. And John Roberts is running as a, how long have you been active with the Republican Party?
Oh, I've been active with campaigns since I was 16, been active in party roles one way or the other, basically for the last 10 years.
I'm going to give him I'll give you 3 minutes to give your spiel. He's going to be a candidate for a state office. John Roberts.
Good morning. It's a great crowd this morning. My name's John Roberts, and I'm running for state party vice chair at our state convention. Dwayne McAnally, who is currently the vice chair, has decided not to run again, so it's an open seat. The reason I'm running are 3 main reasons. I want to rebuild our party infrastructure. I want to refocus our communications. And my #1 priority is retaking the 5th District for the Republican Party.
Here, here.
My experiences, I've been the state chairman of the Young Republicans for the last 2 years. Before that, I was the national committee man for the Young Republicans. And I've been very active in Cleveland County and in the 4th District, serving as county vice chair, serving as county state committee man, and serving as the 4th District vice chair, which has also meant that I've served on the state party's executive committee. So I've seen and experienced where we can improve our infrastructure, our relations with county parties, to be more effective, to share more resources, and to be able to be more effective in getting our Republicans elected. I want to refocus our communications because too many times we talk about what we're not for instead of what we are for. And we need to be able to stand on our principles in a positive and meaningful way with our legislature, with our congressmen, and with our fellow Republicans to be able to talk about issues and shape the debate moving forward in Oklahoma. I've worked on statewide campaigns before. I've worked on local races before. And I know what it takes to be able to do the things to get our candidates to have the opportunity from a party perspective to put their best foot forward. When I worked at the state party as political director, we were able to have forums for the open U.S. Senate seat that involved every one of the Republican candidates, was on the radio, and gave them the opportunity to make their argument to the Republican voters across the state how they were the best person for the job. The party should not be making decisions as to who the nominee is. That's your job as activists. But we should put all of our candidates in the best position to be able to succeed going forward once they become the nominee. As vice chair, that is what I want to do. I hope to see you on April 6th at the state convention, and I would appreciate your support. My name is John Roberts, and I hope that you'll vote for me. Thank you very much.
John's got a lot of experience, but that doesn't mean he just gets to be the guy. We've got another fella here. Come on down. He wants the job too, so he's gonna make you earn it. And I don't know your name at all, but it's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're getting involved.
Oh, actually, for those that don't know, I'm Mike Turner. I used to actually represent House District 82, far northwest part of Oklahoma City. I took out an incumbent, if you will, moderate Republican in a primary. It was much like Bridesign that year, the upset that kind of caught people by surprise. And that's kind of why I want to get back in the swing of things, is that I've been extremely disappointed with how the Oklahoma GOP has been operating. Frankly, there hasn't been a whole lot of outreach. There hasn't been working with groups. There has not been any approach with getting more young people involved to get out and be active with campaigns. I have a lot of experience, not just with my own state office campaign running for my house. I also ran for 5th District Congress. Unfortunately, I know how those demographics are and how, unfortunately, again, how Congressman Russell lost that seat was because the state party did not get involved in any way, shape, or form on any magnitude. He lost by 3,000 votes. Kendra Horn was out knocking only Republican doors. But those Republican voters didn't hear a single word otherwise. They're like, oh, well, Kendra's great. We like this philosophy. Where was the party about saying, hey, we actually have an alternative. Here's why you need to support Russell. Because you need to help support President Trump. And so that, unfortunately, is a black eye on Oklahoma. And so now we have a congresswoman who happens to have some very far-left individuals staffing her offices. As much as she's going to pray that she's a blue dog Democrat, she is no friend of the conservatives and no friend of the Republican Party. And so I'm angry and I'm upset, and that's why I'm deciding to get after it. because I believe that the Oklahoma GOP needs to be aggressive in terms of, much like what John Roberts has said, being aggressive about communicating what we stand for, not as any how we respond playing from a defensive position. It's okay to be on the offense. Look at what the Oklahoma Democrat Party is doing. They're tailoring their messages and they're playing the heartstrings, and I'm sorry, we have the values of freedom and economic, prosperity and personal liberty. And we need to bring those values and carry them all the way forward and show that we have a message that resonates, that allows you to live your life without government interference. And that's what we need to be pushing. We also need to be providing access to resources to candidates, and also saying, you know what, you're not a Republican that's running for office, so we're not going to give you any support. I'm sorry, there are about 15 House members I know that would absolutely shock you if you knew how far left that they were. That they actually are happy to caucus and work with Democrat Party to shut down legislation. They want to raise your taxes. They feel that we've already done enough for the Second Amendment, that we need to unwind some of our protections. And I'm sorry, that's just not a Republican principle. And we need to say as a party, you do not have our blessing, and we just cannot endorse you in good faith. So no, sir, you are not welcome. So I may or may not be the best person for the job, but having seen the Trump organization and going around and volunteering on my own time and my own dime, from the State Fair of Oklahoma all the way through the California primary, I've seen what other states are doing, and we need to become active. And so I'm asking for your support. And if I happen to get it, wonderful. If I don't, I completely respect your opinion, because at the end of the day is that I want to improve this party, and I'm always going to still try and move the ball forward. So thank you for your time.
What was your name?
Mike Turner.
Mike Turner. Thank you, Mike. If anyone is still not signed in, please take this opportunity to sign in. If anybody still doesn't have a copy of the rules or the platform or the agenda, make sure those are all distributed. It's about that time, isn't it? Everybody ready? All right, I'm going to call this. Are you ready? I'm going to call the Creek County Republican Convention of 2019 to order at this time. I'll need the credentials report first. D. Dobson.
I think we have one more person signing in.
We're still working on it. Give us a few minutes.
All right,
Okay.
come on down.
Do we get to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, yeah, we're going to do all that. What's the first thing on the agenda?
Prayer and
Call to order.
and then prayer and pledge.
The prayer and the pledge. So if you will all rise. Lou Martin. Lou knows this. Lou, we put God before country, so will you pray?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, in Christ we come to you again. We just thank you so much for your love, your grace, and your mercy, and your peace. And Lord, may you bless this convention for the betterment of our citizens in this county, Creek County, and Oklahoma. And may we always ask for your watchful eye over us and all that we do. May we always glorify your holy name in the business, your business, and your activity. In Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we're going to pledge allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you will, welcome our current Creek County Chairperson, D. Dobson.
So I don't have a credentials report yet, but my name is Dee Dobson. I've been the chair for 4 years. I've enjoyed it. I am not running again because I think that Rob would do a very, very good job of rallying people and getting people to volunteer a little bit more. I am going to stay involved. I think that I probably will have some kind of job to do. But I would like to say in the time that I've been here, I'm really kind of trying to fill in until I get what I'm supposed to actually be doing. We've done a lot. We haven't got a lot of involvement, unfortunately, but that's on me because a lot of times I'll just do it myself. So we got a website, we've got Facebook, we've had many forums for candidates to come and speak. We've put them on the internet so people can see them. One I specifically remember was the drum right one. whenever we were doing the county commissioners, District 2. And we had, I don't know how many, 8 maybe? And so we put it online, and lots and lots of people watched it, and then they actually saw who they were voting for. Even though there wasn't that many people actually there, they got to see it, and so I was really proud of that. Dina and Dawn have been, and I, have been to many, many festivals, met many, many people, done a lot of fun things. I'm a little nervous, I guess. My voice is kind of shaky. Oh, good. We know our legislators. We have a lot of influence on them. So I guess what I'd like to say about our party in Creek County is show up. I mean, I know the governor. I have the lieutenant governor's phone number in my phone. I can text him at any time, and he texts me back. And all it was showing up. I mean, there was nothing special about me. All I am is a person who loves this country, mostly. and then I just show up. So hopefully our credentials are ready, so you don't have to listen to me.
Give a minute.
Okay, well, we've got legislators here.
That's her.
We got one right here.
Wait a minute, James.
Oh.
She's done an excellent job. Everybody's.
That's what I want to say. It's been a pleasure, Dee, having you lead us in the GOP party in Creek County, and thank you for all your service.
No, keep going.
Thank you to the speaker. Is anybody just appalled at the Sodom and Gomorrah that is happening in our country with New York? And who would have thought 5, 10 years ago this would even be a possibility? And so, but hopefully Oklahoma's going to be that beacon of light, and we're going to do good things this session. I tell you, it's been so impressive at the Capitol. The legislators have been up there for about 2 weeks before session started. We just finished our first week, and it's been amazing. Going into my 5th year, the enthusiasm that's happening at the Capitol. I've had, please clap for that. I've had Governor Stitt come in my office twice and just sit down, walk in the hall, meeting. That never happened in the last 4 years I was there. So I just can't tell you how excited I am to have Governor Stitt and Lieutenant Governor Pinnell up there and get forward. There's going to be some great things happening in the next 2 years.
I'm Kyle Hilbert, State Rep, House District 29. I think I know most of the people in here, and Representative Lawson and I cover most of Creek County. And I just want to say, you know, there was all this talk about a blue wave coming. Well, the blue wave ran into a red wall in Oklahoma. You know, I fully agree 100% with what the senator was saying, and I, for one, am grateful that we have Kevin Stitt as the governor of Oklahoma, and not Drew Evans. And Stitt, as a businessman, I mean, I didn't know Kevin Stitt 2 years ago, and got to get to know him on the campaign trail, especially after the primary, and I've got to work with him since he was elected. And you know, there's a lot of benefit in having somebody as governor who he matched every campaign donation he got dollar for dollar, so he's not tied to anyone because he put more money into the race than anyone, similar to Trump. He's not tied down to any one industry. He's there to be fair, and I've been very pleased with everything that's happened. I do want to give an update on a bill Senator Lee Wright and I ran 2 years ago that was a constituent request bill, House Bill 1427, that was making sure that out-of-state companies were paying the same amount of taxes as their in-state competitors. At the time, Oklahoma was not putting any focus on these companies, and so it did 2 things. One, it leveled the playing field so that Oklahomans were not at a competitive disadvantage. And 2, it also brought in revenue to the state that the state was already owed. And in the 15 months that program's been in place, they've assessed $40 million in taxes. So that was a bill. A constituent came up to us and suggested it, and we ran it, got it passed. That was a a bill that Mary Fallon did sign. She vetoed some good bills, but she signed that one. And it's doing some good things for the state without raising taxes, and I just wanted to update you guys on that. And like Dee said, stay involved and let us know about things that are going on in areas of expertise for your area, because it's very helpful. Sometimes there are bills that are filed that, amongst the 3,000 bills that were filed, you know, some can fall through the cracks, and if something's important to you and you want to make sure it gets heard, let us know, so we can get that on our radar and all those things. So, but appreciate being with you all this morning, and I'll turn it over to Representative Lawson.
Dee, thank you so much for the last 2 years, what you've done. And despite my best efforts, I've always told you, never let Kyle speak before me. No, these gentlemen are right. The attitude in the Capitol is better than it has been since, well, Kyle and I have been there for 2 years, and I think James would say in the 4 that he's been there. I've had more conversations with Governor Stitt than I probably saw Mary Fallon in the Capitol, and just tremendously excited about that. You've probably seen, if you're following his social media, that he is taking his time to go and visit each of these departments and these agencies, just to let them know as well. Like, he is interested. When he says he wants to make Oklahoma a top 10 state, he really means that. You know, it sounds good. It's a catchy phrase, but he means it. He really does. And I'm actually very excited. I've started working with his transition team on the Human Services Policy Group. The Health and Human Services Policy Group was one big group in the beginning, and they were focusing all on health, 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 health. Well, I've argued since day one, since I've started dabbling in politics, that Oklahoma's problem is the breakdown of the family. We see that every day. We've got more and more kids that are born into single-parent houses. We've got more and more families who aren't going to church. And I say that's the #1 problem in this state. And if we don't fix that, it's ridiculous of us to expect different education outcomes, to expect a better workforce development, to expect our crime and incarceration numbers to go down. And so he has been very receptive to that, and he really wants to make us top 10 in that area as well. And I just can't say enough great things about what is going on there. Kyle and I have the privilege of sharing an office. We're in 244A and B. I think that would make it a little easier for those of you who come to visit at the Capitol. I know Don and Leon. Did Leon scoot out?
He had to go.
He had to go. They were there this past week to make it a one-stop shop for you guys. But Dee is correct. I mean, it starts with showing up. And whether it's James or Kyle or me, we want to hear from you guys, because you guys are the people that we represent. I had a good conversation with Liz this morning about some of the legislation that's going on. I know I've talked to Lee several times, so just about different things, but we want to hear from you guys. We get caught up and doing the day-to-day activities there at the Capitol, but if we're not representing you, then we're not doing our job. And so we want to be engaged with you. We want you to feel like you can contact us. So anytime you're down there, or anytime you feel like there's something we need to know about, please reach out and let us know, because that's what we're there to do, is to represent you guys. Happy to be here today. Thanks for having us.
Do we have a number?
Yes?
There we go.
Hello, I'm Vicki Martin, and the registrations table has asked me to give you the credentials report for this morning. We have 44 people present with 1 guest. Our 50% majority would equal 23 votes, and our 2/3 majority vote would be 29. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a motion to accept the credential report.
So moved.
I make the motion.
Don Agnew made a motion. You got a second? Mark Lawson. Everybody happy with that number? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody you want to see thrown out?
Does everybody have a copy of the rules?
everybody that's a delegate that's been accredited has the vote, and if anyone has a disagreement on the issues, they have, on a proposed amendment, they have 4 minutes to speak, or if they have something to support it, they have 4 minutes to speak.
Robin, we're not going along. We're supposed to be hearing from David right now.
Huh?
On our agenda, hearing from David.
Am I off the agenda? What's next?
We haven't let David speak.
Oh, well,
I'm
sorry. You don't write the business, man. Well, let's go ahead and, do we have any issues with the rules? No issues with the rules? I'll entertain a motion to approve the rules.
So moved.
Lee Wright Hilbert said yay. Anybody, everybody like the rules, say yay? Yay. Anybody hate the rules, say nay. At this time, I would like to invite David McLain. He's our neighboring county, Tulsa County Chairman, to come up. I've invited him to speak for us. And he's done a great job with Tulsa County. And I think he wants another job now, right? Is that why you're here? Sure.
You know, it's funny, when I come to these events, I really don't know what I'm going to say until I get here. I don't have a planned out stump speech for anything. I really know what I want to do at the state level. My name is David McLain, and I'm my beautiful bride, Aline McLain, is here in the back. She's a great force behind me who goes pretty much everywhere I go. She helps with administration and other things behind the scenes. So that's my beautiful bride, Aline McLain, back there. I've been married to her March 4th for 30 years. And she deserves a medal for that. I'm a military man. I was in the United States Navy for 4 years. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, military man. You know, I have 3 children. They're all grown. They're all married. And I have 4 grandchildren and 2 on the way right now. So my daughter, I should be getting a call any moment that she's going into labor. She's due any time right now, her and her husband. Well, she is. Her husband's just going to join her. So I'm so honored to be here today. I can't tell you. It's been quite an experience traveling around the state, talking to people and hearing from people, hearing the issues, hearing the solutions to the issues, things of that nature. And we have been keeping the road awfully hot, traveling. But with that said, how do we become a top 10 state? That's really the question. The question is, how do we, at the grassroots, get married to our executive branch? And how do we at the grassroots get married to our legislative branch? Begin to bridge the divide between the legislative branch and the executive branch. How do we do that? Well, we do that through inclusion, inspiration, and action. That's how we've done it in Tulsa County. Right now, I'm currently the chairman of Tulsa County. I've been the chairman of Tulsa County for 23 months. And I want you to know, I have no vice with any other chairmen in how they ran their administrations. I have an inside viewpoint on why they ran their administrations the way that they did, and I don't completely disagree with all the things that they did. In fact, I agree with a lot of the things that they did. But nonetheless, it's a very big job to be the chairman of a county. It's a very big job to be the chairman of the state. And in this, I have never purposed to weaponize my seat in Tulsa County. When I came into Tulsa County, we hadn't had a county committee meeting in 7 years. 7 years. Why would that be? Well, because of the fractures that had taken place in the party. There were fractures all over the place. It was kind of like a spider web of fractures. So the first thing that I did when I came into office is I literally cleaned the place out. Physically, I cleaned it out. I organized an ad hoc committee of prayer warriors, and I brought them in, and we prayed over that office. and we put things back together in that office. That's where we began. We began with prayer in Tulsa County, with a prayer covering over Tulsa County. And that's where I begin with the state. I begin with the prayer covering over the state. So, with that said, we fast forward into our first county committee meeting that we had in Tulsa County in 7 years. And I want you to know I had other people advise me not to do that. I had people tell me, David, you don't want to host a county committee meeting right now because of all the issues that are in the party. I said, no, that's why I want to host the meeting. I had legislators tell me that. I had other county chairmen tell me that. But lo and behold, I wasn't going to hear that. I had kind of fallen on deaf ears. And here's why. Because of those fractures, we began to become defined by our differences. Have you noticed that when an organic organization becomes defined by their differences, it begins to silo us out and separate us? And the 75 or 80% of the things that we agree upon, we can no longer talk about because we've siloed us out, we've separated us out, we've put ourselves on the island of ignorance, and we've begun to lash out at one another. I began to speak about these things at our Tulsa County Committee meetings. My first county committee meeting, I had, I think, 35 or 37 people show up is all. 400,000 Republicans in Tulsa County. I could only muster 35 to 37, but I felt like it was a very successful county committee meeting. I felt like we were able to talk about things in that county committee meeting that we hadn't been able to talk about in a long time, so it was the beginning of something new. It was the beginning of restructuring the party at the county meeting. When I took office, all I heard was about this blue wave. I was going to be the chairman who was overtaken by the blue wave, and there was nothing that we were going to be able to do about that. Well, when I got that news, I thought, wow, these special elections that we're stepping into are going to kind of give me a pulse of what things really look like at the grassroots. So I believe we had 5 special elections, and now, of course, we went to work right away in our precincts. We pushed everything back to the precinct chairman and vice chairman and began to do what I call meetings at the local level in houses and other places where we could meet to try to pull our grassroots together so we could begin to build a consensus on that 75 to 80% that we agreed upon. It's very important that we stay to that 75 to 80% that we can agree upon, or we begin to get defined by our differences and we get completely separated, completely fractured, and the next thing you know, me and Brian O'Hara are pointing our finger at one another, and we can never work together again because we've defined ourselves by our differences and haven't found a solution to the problem. And the reason why we can't find solutions to problems sometimes is because of the differences. So in order for us to move the conservative needle forward, we have to come together. And we have to begin to build consensus on the platform and the things that we agree upon. Because once the organic movement of the body begins, we've seen in Tulsa County, we began with good candidates, good qualified candidates in Tulsa County. We began to see a pushback against that blue wall. I believe we had 5 special elections. I believe we won 3 of those 5, and the other 2 were very close. Now, in the last 6 months, we lost 1 seat to a Democrat over there, Gaddis, and we flipped that seat back in the general, just so you know. We worked very diligently to do that. So the blue wall, it was proven that the blue wall could be stopped if we community organized at the precinct level. I seen that right away. So we began to dig even deeper into our precincts. We began to take a look at what is it going to take in order to, as a community, to stop the blue wave, to hit the red wall. Well, we began to do these meetings. And then I had another county committee meeting, and more people showed up. Fast forward to October 2018, my last county committee meeting in that quarter, 325 people at the county committee meeting, rabble-rousing. Let's think about that at the base. We were able to put all of these facets together. We were able to put, because I have a philosophy that I run by. If you're a constitutionalist, I love you. If you're a conservative, I love you. If you're center-right, I love you. If you're left-right, I love you. If you're lockout Republican, I love you. You see, we are a big tent, and we must needs be inclusive and get to the agreement point so that we can move the conservative needle forward for the sake of our districts, for the sake of our people, for the sake of our culture, for the sake of our ideology, but most for the sake of the principle. You see, we have a long-standing legacy right now of good conservatism in the state of Oklahoma. We're looked at as a beacon of hope around the country, the state of Oklahoma is. And we've had some stumbling take place. We've had some issues take place. So as your state chairman, if I'm elected to that position, here's what I propose. It's very simple in nature. I propose that we get back to the precinct level Board of Educations. I want to start there. TPS Board of Education, that's Tulsa Public School Board of Education, has an estimated $760 million rolling through there. It's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Annual. $760 million. On that local Board of Education right now, there are 7 progressive Democrats that own those seats. You see, while we have been absolutely focused at the state level, and there's nothing wrong with that, we have neglected the most important heartbeat of our state, our Board of Educations, at the community. So as your state chairman, I am purposing to put together a plan and have already started to structure that plan on how we can take back all of our rural Board of Education, all of our city education, Board of Educations, and begin to help our executive branch become a top 10, #1 in education in the country. We do this by getting married with our governor, the executive branch, and our legislative branch, and focusing in at these local level areas where we can see our tax dollars working. I'm going to give you an example of what 7 progressive Democrats can do over a period of time. In Tulsa County, we have changed the name of schools. We are ripping apart the heritage of a nation, the people. That is the heritage. The culture. The culture that was brought before is a culture that must needs stand, but when we tear at the heritage of the people, we begin to rip at the foundation of the culture of those people. We are a cultured people. And so it's very important for us to understand that when we step back and we take a look at what is the most important function that we can do at the local level, it is to get heavily involved in these Board of Education races. I have one going in Tulsa County right now. Nicole Nixon is running in Tulsa County right now. She's the only Republican in the race. There are 6 progressive Democrats running against her for this seat. Tulsa County has endorsed in that race. I would encourage all county chairmen at the localist of level and nonpartisan races to begin to endorse at these Board of Education races. Why? Because we at nonpartisan level cannot define who the candidates are. We have to carve out who we are, stand on our ideology and our principles, and take those into the Board of Education. In Tulsa County, right now, I have 2 workbooks from the curriculum selection that Tulsa County TPS has chosen that teaches our children in the 4th and 5th grade about the Nation of Islam. The second workbook is the workbook that then ties the Quran to the Nation of Islam. Now, is that appropriate?
No.
Is that good?
No.
Okay. Should if that does take place, should there not be an equal playing field for Christians, for Jews, for other Catholics, for other religions to have a competitive nature, to be able to teach our children the differences between those?
Yes.
I believe so. This is the core. This is the core for our legislator, for our executive branch, and for the state. We must needs begin to shift our focus to these Board of Educations. And I have a plan to get us there. Secondly, city races. Nonpartisan city races.
Crazy.
I would like to say this. There are a lot of policies and ordinances that take place at these local level city races. I believe we have to, at the same time we are looking at the Board of Educations, not looking at them, but beginning to work diligently within those Board of Educations, training candidates. I would like to offer some candidate training, county to county, with the district chairman, the county chairman. But if I can't get cooperation there, I'm going to be very honest with you. If I can't get cooperation from a district chairman or a county chairman, it is not going to stop me from going in and working their grassroots, just so you know. That's how serious I am about making an effectual change within our party at the localist of level. It's imperative that we get there. Obviously, we're doing something right at the state. We're the reddest state in the country. We're doing something right there. We are. But we have to redirect our focus back to the local level. Our city nonpartisan elections are key for us to take back how our city ordinances are structured, the policies that are enforced, and this also levels the playing field for free markets to come in. And it's at the city where you're going to see your tax dollars work the best. So as your state chairman, I'm going to be encouraging you to get heavily involved in these city nonpartisan elections and the Board of Education elections. What I want to do is create a community organization that is the heartbeat of the state legislature and the executive branch, and marry those things together and begin to bridge the divide. And I believe the money will follow us around once we get that completed. They told me that this would not be possible in Tulsa County, but we have taken big steps to get there. Are we completely there yet? No, we're not. We're not. But for the first time in many years, it looks like we are going to be able to, February 23rd, very possibly be able to, because of the hard work of our grassroots, laying down their vices, laying down their issues with one another, laying down their vices with the legislators, laying down their issues with the legislators, all of us coming in and working together. We just may very well have a new county chairman in a county that represents 400,000 Republicans through acclamation. It's almost unheard of. So I'm going to say this. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I'm hoping that it does. I'm hoping that we can show the state that we can work together at the 75% agreement mark and move the conservative needle forward in the state of Oklahoma. Bridge the divide between the state legislature and the executive branch and marry it straight to the grassroots. Working in our precincts to create a soft landing for our legislators to come home so they can explain to us why they voted the way that they voted or why they didn't vote the way that they didn't vote. I think the time of visceral hate and discouragement is over in the state of Oklahoma. We have leadership at the executive level and the legislative level that do not want that vice no more, and nor do I. I want to humbly call all of you together. I want to humbly participate with all of you in a very inclusive way and create an immense amount of activity community-wise at our local level. I believe the money will follow us around while we're doing that. I believe we'll raise an ample amount of money to push money into communications, into media, to push money into our down ballot races where it's most important right now over the next 24 months, local Board of Educations and our cities. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, with that said, I would be proud to serve as your state chairman. Me and my wife, right now, just in the 23 months that we have been working together in conjunction with our grassroots in Tulsa County, have put in 2,700 volunteer hours. It is a full-time job for us, what we do in Tulsa County. This is how important it is for our children and our grandchildren. It's time that we get behind our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our legislators. And when we have a disagreement with our legislator, to temper ourselves, to take every thought into captivity and cast down thine imagination, to temper yourself, so that when you do approach your legislator, you approach them cordially, politely, and begin a relationship with them. I believe in pointing the finger at somebody makes you just as guilty as they are in that conversation. I think we can cordially sit down and begin to bridge the divides on everything. And I got to be honest with you. I don't think the state is the answer on abortion. I'm going to put that out there right now. I don't believe the state's the answer on abortion. I believe taking over your local city councils is the answer for the ordinances that take care of abortion at the local level. This is a different philosophy. Now understand, I was the pastor who stood out in front of the abortion clinics and prayed. I was the pastor who was hissed at in front of those abortion clinics. I am thoroughly convinced that the state cannot stop it. I'm even more thoroughly convinced that the federal Supreme Court is not going to participate in it. But where you can begin to get participation and where you can begin to make a change in this area immediately is to infect your city councils and your counties. I think we've been focused in the wrong areas. Nothing wrong with what we've done. I believe these things are good. And I believe the executive branch should be working it, whether it's pro-life or abolitionist. I believe the legislators should be working it, whether it's pro-life or abolitionist. But I believe if we really want to get serious about it, we will get to these local nonpartisan elections and begin to control the local mechanisms where your tax dollars work. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
And I want to lead that charge. And I guarantee you this, nobody will work harder than me. Nobody in this cycle right now is working harder than me to win this seat. Nobody is. I'm out and about and all around right now. And I'm going to continue until April 6th. This is what I'm going to do until I find out if I win this thing or not. I'm asking you today, and very humbly I'm asking you today, to please support my candidacy so that we can bridge the divide between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and bring healing to the state of Oklahoma and move the conservative needle forward for our people, for our children, our grandchildren, our heritage, and our culture. Would you please join me? Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me today.
We're going to take a break from our agenda for just a second because we had a special guest come who wants to take just a moment of your time. Everybody welcome Congressman Kevin Hern.
Before I get started, thanks for everybody for being here. For allowing me to speak for a few minutes. Is there anybody that have any more passion than David McLain? What time did you get up this morning, David? You fired up, baby.
About 4:45.
So much to say and so few minutes to say it. First of all, you know, we have 3 precincts over and down in Kiefer and Mauser in the 1st District, but you know, I've had McDonald's here for almost 16 years. It'll be 16 years on March 1st since I had the restaurant, so a long time in Sapulpa. And so I appreciate the opportunity for all of you all that bought coffee there or sitting there and talked, all the coffee with cops we've had, the teachers we've done, and all the sponsorships. So I appreciate all the opportunities for being engaged. You know, people ask me all the time as a business guy, you know, what do you think about the place? And I said, well, you know, as a business person, how many business people do we have in here? I don't know, small business, just in business. You know, one of the things you do in business is you try to figure out what the big issues are, or the, you know, the foundation, so you can build a house on it. You know, and this party really has a great reputation as working hard. Senator, how you doing?
Doing good, sir.
You know, and I really want to thank Dee and Rob and who else am I missing here? Can't good to see you again. I'm missing the Ingalls have done a great job. I'm always going to miss somebody. My wife said, don't ever start thanking everybody because you always make somebody hurt their feelings. But you know, people ask, so what's the biggest thing you found is Well, I've been there about 4 months now. It'll be 4 months on the 13th since I got sworn in back in November. And one thing I'm pretty convinced right now is that it's the difference between believing whether this country was founded on an inspired, group of folks that are inspired by God. That's first, of which I do. And I will tell you there are a lot I believe that don't, based on me hearing them firsthand. Not fake news reporting or any of that, not Fox, not CNN, but hearing them specifically say that. Some of you may have heard about, and I'll get to that in just a second, but about taking it, so help me God out of that. That was actually in the Natural Resources Committee. And so we debated that, and it got put back in. But also, it's the idea and the notion, we always hear this thing about the original intent of the Constitution or living, breathing document. There is no question in my mind. There are many, many people on the other side of the aisle that believe the Constitution is to be changed at the whim of the political moment, and of which I don't think it should be. I think if you believe this country was inspired by God and founded by God, just with the help of a few individuals on this planet, then you have to believe He was all-knowing and all-seeing in this Constitution. It's amazing to me, the awe of just walking around. A guy that came from background that I came from in Washington, D.C., and you look around and you kind of get it caught up in the moment, thinking about just a little bit of piece of history. You're here, and the only nation ever founded on the principles of God. And so we should never forget that. So I was talking to my team yesterday, and you always try to kind of figure out how, there's so much going on. It's just crazy. But you try to get your mind around what's the high level that you can kind of put everything under. And I really think it's sort of the battle of the isms going on. It's the battle of capitalism versus socialism. It used to be we just thought that. Today, with this new elected group from the Democrats far left, they are proud to call themselves socialists. They're not unabashed about it. It doesn't bother them. And you start looking at it, and the problem with this is when we talk about capitalism versus socialism, is that most folks do not gather what that really means. This country was founded on the idea that you worked hard and you got a day's work, or you worked harder than somebody else and you worked in a different direction and you had a different outcome than those who didn't work hard.
That's right.
And not all guaranteed, though. And so we know that God created us equal. He didn't say we're going to have equal outcomes. And so socialism is about equal outcomes. Everybody has the same regards to how hard you work. And a famous lady once said that socialism works until you run out of other people's money.
Right.
And they're testing that right now. I'm on natural resources, where I'm the deputy ranking committee, a member on energy and minerals and tribal affairs. And then I'm on budget by my request because I wanted to know where the money went or where it's going. And I'm also on small business, and I'm the ranking member on growth, capital access, and taxes for small businessmen and women in this country. And when you look at all those put together, they all have a lot of things happening that they're intertwined. When you look at the budget, if we don't do anything different than we're doing right now today, right now we're at 22 trillion. Then in 10 years from now, we'll be at 35 trillion. 35 trillion, and our deficits will be 1.567 trillion a year going forward. No end stop. We will be paying 3 times the interest we're paying today. It'll be about 900 billion a year. We will be paying more for our interest and our debt than we are for the defense of this country. We can't. The numbers are running up so fast now. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just giving you facts. One of the things I said in Republican convention like this over in Tulsa County a couple weeks ago was I'm still a political novice enough that I think the facts matter. And so whether we're talking about how many people are actually crossing the border or not, you can determine. I want everybody, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or don't give two hoots about politics, to ask yourself if 300,000 to 400,000 a year being apprehended, that's who are caught, is a big number or not. You determine whether that's a big number. It doesn't, we shouldn't even argue that is a big number. We need to secure our southern border.
That's right.
And I believe the Democrats believe that as well. They will not listen. They will not listen to what the CBP, the Customs and Border Protection folks, are telling them, because they know when they actually listen to that, they'll actually have to acquiesce and build a wall, which is what they voted for in 06 and 9 and 13. Because their president in 9 and 13 was hearing the same message. We have to secure the southern border. So, you know, they're all about open borders. All about it. They're all about welfare and voting rights for illegal immigrants. Look at California. California is the laboratory of what's going to happen in this country if we don't get our arms around it. It's amazing. I will challenge you. I won't bore you all with, like I said, so much to talk about. But you go back to 1968, and there was a guy named Ronald Reagan, their governor. And you fast forward to 2018, and you look at the change in that state. You look at it. It is now the highest poverty per capita in the country. Yes, it has a lot of people, and yes, it produces a lot of output. But those of you in business know that your top line is not what matters, it's the bottom line that matters. You can have the most greatest sales, but if you're spending more than you make, sounds familiar, you're going bankrupt. And that state's going bankrupt, and it's the model for the rest of this country. We've got to change that. You know, when you look at, what's amazing to me, these are all smart people. When you look at, you go back and look at the words of our founders. I mean, how many of you all worked on contracts? Think about it. The contract is a result of your final result of working out all the differences. And everybody signs that. Our founding fathers, again, I think divinely inspired, wrote down their thoughts in separate documents called the Federalist Papers, what justified the contract called the Constitution. Our folks know this. It's enshrined not too far from where they're at. Literally 200 yards, they can walk across the street to the Library of Congress read anything. The original document. They don't have to read a copy. They can read the original document. They refuse to do that because they know they're going to hear the fact that this country was not founded on a socialist idea. It was founded on free markets. It was founded on every man having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet they forgot the life part. How can you have liberty and happiness, the pursuit of happiness, if you have no life? And look at what's happened in New York and celebrated by Cuomo. Look what's happened in Virginia and celebrated by Northam. Look what's happened with the Democrats that were supporting him before a picture popped up. You know, some of us were at the prayer breakfast this week. At the front table, we had two senators. One we know as Senator James Langford. Another we know as Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. Right, Delaware? I think that's right, yeah. And at the table, we had, you know, all these folks lined up, pastors and, you know, faith leaders from all over the world. And at the end, we had President Trump stand and speak. You know, do what a president or a leader in this free world has not done, and I've never seen a video of somebody doing this. Stands up and talks about that God breathes life into a child. That it starts at conception. And that what we learned is that the difference between abortion and murder is the difference between a child's head crowning, coming out of a mother's womb, and being actually born. It's that kind of a difference today. It used to be, you know, it was a conception. We don't even debate that anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. And the president is talking about this. Everybody stands up and gives him a standing ovation, except the gentleman from Delaware, the senator from Delaware. And he was not signing up. But, you know, here's a person that's leading a national prayer breakfast, 3,000 people there, telecast all over the world, and he won't even stand up when the president, the leader of the free world, talks about pro-life. The core foundation, if you have no life, you have nothing else. That's right. And he wouldn't even stand up. I leaned over to my wife, and I said, this is a very disturbing moment for me. To see a person who was standing up there as a co-equal to our senator, who we know where his faith is, won't even stand up. Everybody at the table stood up. I couldn't see at the front table where Nancy Pelosi and others were, but I can tell you one thing, she didn't stand up at the State of the Union when he said that. So, you know, we have a fundamental problem that has gotten so obvious today. You know, we were talking about the sporadic ideas and ideologies. There is no, you know, they've embraced the left so much. And when I say the left, I don't mean the Democrats, I mean the socialists. Those ideas. I don't know if you saw this Ocasio-Cortez. So just as a sidebar, you know, she got this nickname like Cher, you know, all this, and Madonna called AOC. I told my team, somebody in my office mentioned this, said that AOC about 3 weeks ago. We had a big meeting. I said, get everybody in the office, in the room. So we had 8 of us in there. I said, this is going to take about 30 seconds. I don't want to hear anybody ever say those 3 initials in my office. Her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She is not a rock star, so don't call her AOC. Don't ever want to hear you say that. And so nobody does that, not even me. But, you know, we never saw her on the floor. You know, she introduced this big green deal, new green deal, and, you know, I can say this here. Probably somebody will record this and it'll be played somewhere, but it's clearly in the document. We're not sure how long this is going to take because we don't know how long we can stop. It's going to take to stop farting cows. This is the intelligence level of the folks on the left, and we need to know how we're going to get rid of airplanes. As a sidebar, yesterday on the floor, which you rarely ever see her on the floor, she usually comes in and votes and goes out and gets on, you know, Twitter or something, or TV cameras follow her everywhere. They make her a rock star. And so a buddy of mine, Ralph Norman from South Carolina, and I walked over to her. I said, hey Ralph, let's go talk to Ocasio just a second. So we go over there, and he, before I could say anything, he goes, hey, Cortez, you gonna make me sell all my cows? And I asked her, I said, when are we gonna start riding horses again? Because we can't fly here. It's gonna take a couple days ride to get here anymore. And she was, you know, very laughing about it. So, you know, I don't know that she even truly believes it. It's just something to make, you know, news in the moment. But, you know, I could go on, and I know you guys got a lot going on, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. But when you look at what's going on over, you guys should get really nervous. Yeah? You know, we could say that it's funny, we're all laughing about it together, but you need to be a little bit fearful of it too. She has got a lot of followers. And if you don't believe it, just kind of go back and look on Google or something just a few days ago when she announced the Green Deal. You had all these senators, you had all these House members standing behind her. People who know better. And you got 7 senators that are running for president that are not going to give 2 hoots about doing their job. They're going to be out running for office. They are lined up behind her. Now you think about that. People that are running for president of the country are lined up behind her. If they think that will get them elected, they're going to adopt it. So we really have got to make sure that we're getting folks elected that believe that this country was inspired by a divine God. Life matters. And that the capitalist ideas that this country was founded on is why people are trying to get in here. I don't see anybody trying to steal their way into Russia or China. Everybody's trying to come here. And we need to remember that. Remember that this Constitution was founded on the idea that it was going to be steadfast. And if you don't like the way it is, there is a way that we, the people, can amend it. Not some politician in Washington, D.C. You know, as we talk about this life issue, we get confused sometimes of how big an issue that really is. You know, Planned Parenthood just a few weeks ago, were proud to report out that they'd done over 300,000 abortions last year. And that's a lot. And I was looking at this a couple days ago, but it pales in comparison as in the entire number in the United States. We aborted almost 900,000 babies in the United States last year. 900,000. That's a lot. It's crazy where we're at in this country as the freest country in the world, and our Constitution clearly lays out in our Declaration of Independence that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, protecting life, protecting the value of those liberties, the framework of what we do and who we are, yet we have such a high number of babies being aborted. Upwards of 70 million since 1973. And to see what happened just 2 days ago with a Supreme Court justice that is supposed to be a conservative values, strike down the opportunity that Louisiana was looking at about having more restrictive abortion laws. So we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us that we need to look at. You know, one of the things I will tell you that it is great. It is really comforting to look at Oklahoma, what's going on here. I will tell you that in Oklahoma, we sit at a table, so the way this thing is, this National Prayer Breakfast, we kind of got scattered out across the 3,000, and we were sitting there, and there was a group, a man and woman here on my side from Northwest Illinois, and my wife's side, they were from Georgia. And there was another couple, I don't know where they were from, but one of the things they said is that, man, Oklahoma has a tremendous turnout up here. And I don't know whether there were about 50 people in the room or 60, I don't know, a lot. Not everybody had that. But, and most of them, probably 90% of them were from Northeast Oklahoma, from the Tulsa area. So a lot of the leadership that's worked on this for since 1976, I believe it is, that have really worked on making sure this happens. And so I really appreciate you all doing that. It was my first experience to be there live and in person. It was tremendously overwhelming to see what was going on. And, in this state, David mentioned a minute ago, it's the reddest state in the country. However, I will tell you, we know we have an issue in the 5th District that we need to deal with. The Democrats have their rules of how the world should work. It's called H.R. 1, House Resolution 1. Every Congress has it, the controlling party. They're trying to roll theirs out right now. It's going through all the subcommittees and committees of jurisdiction. H.R. 1 basically is the way, and I'll be voting against it. I'll tell you that before it ever hits the floor. It's basically about making elections a federal process as opposed to a state process. It's about federally funding elections. So if you raise $100, the federal government will give you $600.
No.
It's about, the list goes on and on. It's about automatic voter registration. It's there's a whole litany of things, and they'll wrap a couple of things in that we will look bad for voting against it, and they'll highlight that in our campaign. But I would just ask you all in your platform to always just look at H.R. 1. It is about federalizing the election process for your members of Congress and House and Senate. So just take a look at it, do what you can. Kendra Horn is already as a co-sponsor on that. So, we have 4 Republican members and 1 Democrat. You can't hide from your vote. She signed on to that early on, so you know where she's at. She also said she would not vote for Nancy Pelosi because she was not right for this country, and the first vote that she cast was for Nancy Pelosi. Yep. So the very campaign promise she used to get herself elected by 3,300 votes over Steve Russell, she went back on the very first one. So, I know you all know a lot of folks. I would encourage people, if you know somebody that's interested in running in CD5, that you have them contact us. Myself, love to talk to them. I've talked to one person already. We need to get strong conservative values back in the 5th District. It's not a blue county. It's R10, so there's it's tight, but it's still not tight as some across the country. So we need to make sure we get that seat back as quickly as possible. Hopefully in the next cycle, like right now. But there's a lot of games going on. She's not silly, meaning Kendra, she's a smart lady. I talked to her, she's a nice lady. She's just on the wrong side of politics. She's on the wrong side of the issues. She voted no on some things that we voted yes on, and then would switch her vote at the very end when she knew it was safe to win. Yesterday on a vote that her members were voting no on, she voted with 2 seconds left to go on the vote to a yes, to vote with us, so she can go back and say she supported us. She support the delegation. This is being called out. The National Republican Congressional Committee has already sent in messaging into the district, alerting the voters that she's done this. They're going to keep this messaging going. But don't give up on that seat. We need to get it back, and we need to get it back in this next cycle. I could go on and on. But the reality is that you guys have some tremendously conservative values. Be proud of that. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. I read through your platform. Unbelievably powerful. We've got to make sure in God we trust is in there. So help me God's in there. Yeah. And we never should forget that. We need to get, David talked about what's going on being taught in our schools. With our state Congress, our House and Senate, we need to help them get their things back in to teach civics. Senator Inhofe is supporting that as well. And so I appreciate the opportunity. If there's any, can I take 2 questions from anybody? or not two questions from one person, but one question from anybody. Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you very much with the government shutdown, how you've given up your salary. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why can't we get something passed to where everybody in the Senate, they don't get paid when the government shut down?
Yeah, you know, so let me just tell you this. So the 27th Amendment of the Constitution says you cannot change your pay in the cycle you're in. It was done because it was actually, the backstory on that was, it was only put in, it was actually one of the original Bill of Rights. It's the longest, it took 202 years to get that passed. That's within a year or two, 202 I think. But it was put in because they were concerned that the president would start withholding pay to leverage and blackmail a House, so they figured out she'd get it in. So when you see people say they told them to withhold their pay, that's not exactly true. You can't do that. You actually have to take your pay. So even if they put it back into Treasury, they're still going to get, their W-2 is going to say they got paid. And my thought on that was, if I'm going to withhold my salary, I'm going to give it to people in the 1st District.
Yep.
Because I know what happens when people, and we didn't have a lot of folks that were impacted by it. You know, it's 25% of the country was shut down, or the federal government. And so the first thing that usually gets cut, you know, you quit tithing or you quit giving to charities. And so our veterans shouldn't be penalized for that, and others. But we did that, and we gave some adoption agencies in this last go-round. And then some people couldn't take money. So my wife and I donated 1,000 meals to the TSA. We never talked about that. I'm just telling you, the people who, because I got criticized, well, why didn't you give it to the people who needed it, well, you couldn't, because it was against the law for them to take money. So we did it in another fashion. They could take prepared meals or coupons from restaurants. I say, I know a guy that owns some McDonald's. And they said that worked. But, you know, people talk a great game. So there is one thing that Senator Langford and Journey Ernst and one other person, and we just introduced it as well, just signed on to it, and it's no budget, no recess. And that's a rule. So you don't have, it's not violating the Constitution. So basically what that says is that you stay there, so you'll still get paid, because you can't constitutionally change that. You can choose to do what you want to with it. But it says you can't go home. You can't use your MRA, your congressional office monies, to go home. So you're there all weekend, and I'm telling you, most people by Thursday or Friday are ready to go home.
Yep.
And so if they got to stay there and look at each other through the weekend, it's going to get really ornery really quickly.
Okay.
So that one I think will get some legs, because the Senate will pass it. The House won't, but you know, it'll be ugly if they don't. Long answer, but that's kind of what's going on out there. Any others? Yes, sir.
What's the climate looking like in the federal legislature for the legalization of marijuana?
I think right now on the federal level, you got 31 states or 32 states that have legalized some form of marijuana. I think probably at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that all the states will have it legalized in some form or fashion. And then from the I'm speculating at this point in time, there's been zero conversation either way, because there's been so much else going on with immigration and budgets and keeping the government open. And now with the pro-life issue, I think the biggest issue you're going to see going forward is going to be pro-life, because I think they'll come to some kind of agreement on the budget, or on the law rather. But on marijuana, whether it be medicinal or recreational, I think it's going to be left to the states. What will be the issue, as you all are keenly aware, on medicinal, is can doctors prescribe it without violating their FDA, authorized drug license?
Well, my concern is interstate commerce. If I could sell a pound in the East Coast, I get more than if I'm restricted to only selling it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't. That will probably be done through the Commerce Department as initial rule, and then if it's challenged, it'll go to courts, and then the courts will say this violates the law, and then it'll come back. So that process will be bogged down for a while. But no, I've not heard a word on it yet. All right. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. Sorry for the interruption.
time, we'll take a motion to appoint a convention chairman. Somebody has to be in charge.
I think you should, Rob.
Do we have any other nominations? Make say it loud.
I nominate you, Rob Ford.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did anybody else want to run? It's come to my attention that we have a problem with the rules. If you look at the rules, if you'll speak to that, yes, please.
I would just like to make a friendly motion if they want it that worded that way, or just a textual correction to the rules. I didn't notice this before I gave the credentials report. Line sentence 2 under voting of item number 3, voting delegates shall at all times wear official delegate badges. We don't have those today, so
We don't need no skinking badges.
just strike that if everybody's in agreement. That would be good. And also, as far as the percentage of quorum, the 2/3 of the 50% plus 1, I don't think that calculates correctly. I think you meant 2/3 of the total delegates that registered today. So if that would be 29 plus 1 would make 30 now to amend the credential report.
Okay.
Where's that at?
Second. Page 2, under category number 3, voting, on the second page, it's the last sentence in the first.
So 50% plus 1 would be
30.
30. Okay. I hear a motion to adopt the rules as changed.
I make a motion.
I'll second it. Who motioned and who seconded?
It's Dina Engel for the motion and Robin Webster for the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. All right, well now that we have a convention chairman, we'll move straight to the business of the executive committee. You guys heard our candidate for state chairman talk. David's been doing a great job as a county chairman. Dee has done a great job here as a county chairman, but it's time to vote for a new county chairman. And I will take nominations from the floor for a new county chairman.
I nominate Rob Ford.
Any other nominations for a county chairman? Nobody.
Move the nomination cease. Accepted by acclamation.
Second.
He's made a motion that we accept by acclamation. Kyle, you second that motion? So what does that mean? Is that a voice vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I didn't write an acceptance speech. You had no speeches for today. Let's get business done. At this time, we will take a nomination for a vice chairman. Have any
Don Engel.
Dawn is running for something else. Should be a female, typically, you know.
How about Dina Engel?
No, thank you.
Second.
Want the job?
How about young Miss Pender and young Miss Hopper?
Ooh, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Julia Bender.
Bender.
Julia Bender.
Sure.
I nominate Julia Bender.
Yeah.
You just gotta fill in when I'm sick. All right. that your motion, sir?
It is.
Second.
Yeah, we got plenty. Do we have any other nominations? No other nominations? We can do a voice vote? Voice vote? By acclamation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Now, state committee members, state committee is a pain because Creek County is very conservative, and most of the counties in this state, there's 77 of them, they don't even all participate sometimes. And we have heard it said at the 3rd district and at the 1st district and at the state, if we just have enough people, Creek County can really make a difference.
That's right.
Because we've got 3 votes right here, plus our committee people, we have an opportunity to do a lot of steering. And I've only been to a few state convention, state committee meetings. Let me get that out. I've only been to a few state committee meetings.
Well, there haven't been any state.
There've not been enough under our
And they've
current
been
state
canceled 2 or 3
chairperson.
times before you have one.
But I know somebody who would love to do that, and I want to nominate Don Engel to be our state committee man.
I second that.
You'll second that.
Motion by acclamation.
Any other nominations? All right. Motion by acclamation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Again,
He was a nay on the nay.
the state and all of their political correctness has decided to call it member 1 and member 2. But here in Creek County, we like to have a committee man and a committee woman. If Dawn has to go down the turnpike to these meetings, I'm going to nominate Dina Engel to go with
I'm
him.
going to nominate her.
Oh, you don't.
I would like to nominate Dina Engel for State Committee 1.
Oh, at least second.
I think they'll collude myself.
I really like committee woman, and he's gone with me to every meeting, so it really isn't when we have one.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. V and E, the 1st district. We just had an opportunity to hear from our 1st district committee man. I have been very privileged to serve on the 1st district committee for like 6 years, 8 years now, ever since we had Sullivan. As the chairman, I can still go to the meetings, but we still need someone who just speaks for Mounds, Kiefer, and Pickett Prairie, and I would like to nominate Lee to do that.
I would like to second that.
You have my spot. You're the new committee.
I'm for your deal.
What's Lee's last name?
Swagger.
Swagger. The Swagger.
SWIGERT.
I also want to applaud Lee for all the hard work he's doing on our Mounds School Board.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being a school board member. Does anybody else here vote in Mounds, Kiefer, or Pickett Prairie? Anybody? You do? Oh. We're going to vote on you first. Member 1, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Good sir, stand up, tell us your name.
Craig Moss.
Craig Moss, would you be interested in being our committee member part 2? Unless we have a woman from Creek County who votes in Mounds, Kiefer, or Pickett Prairie who wants the job.
To do what now?
Go to the meetings.
Just go to the meetings, you get to hang out with the Congress.
District 1 isn't bad because it's like Tulsa. They usually have them around there, not District 3. You have to travel a little way. The District 1 is not bad at all.
Well, I'll get with you after the meeting.
All
This
right.
time we'll leave the position
We'll talk.
unfilled and see if we can find a committee woman. Unless there's any other any nominations for committee member part 2.
I would do it.
You can.
Fantastic.
Can you spell your name for us?
DEBORAHMOSS.
Is that handsome man next to you nominating you?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Do you have a second? Joe Palmer, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, which brings us to, thank you. The third district, most of Creek County is in the third district, and you guys are stuck having to vote for Lucas all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How long's he been there?
Forever.
Too long.
Too long.
Too long.
Desiree Brown.
We tried so hard, and she's not gonna run against him again.
Oh.
I talked to her recently. I was like, man, Desiree. But anyway, third district is everything else in the county, so unless you vote in Mounds Keeper Picket Prairie, you're eligible for this position. What Dee said is true, though. The meetings are Joe Palmer. You want to keep that job, Joe? All right, I'm going to nominate Joe Palmer for our third district committee man.
I second that.
Anybody else want that job?
Don?
Anybody else want it?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Don, you've been driving, or Joe, you've been driving like Enid or Stillwater or Weatherford?
Yeah.
And what's the turnout at those meetings? Pretty low?
Very low.
So you guys want to ride with him over there, and you can basically push whatever you want through the third district committee meetings.
Is Liz existing?
Yeah, but it
Yes,
also means when you call the senator's office, you're somebody.
you're somebody. That's right. He will listen to our constituents.
I'd like to nominate Liz.
Liz Parks for committee woman, third district committee woman for District 3.
I'd like to second it.
Got any other nominations for third district? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we have our executive committee. Thank you, everybody. There's a lot of other slots, and then of course all of these people will need a proxy. So if you're interested in going to any of these meetings, you can always attend a meeting as a guest, or if I'm not available to be somewhere, I will give you my proxy. You can go in my stead, and then I can also appoint people willy-nilly to be our chaplain, to be our treasurer, to be our whoever I want, because now I have supreme power.
I hope you'll take input from your vice chair.
And I will listen to my vice chair. She's got some good ideas, new, fresh ideas.
Move over, AOC.
Yes. Do we need to take a break, or we're ready for the platform? Platform. Everybody will take your copy of the platform. This is not a new platform by any means. Most of the planks in our platform were inserted by Mark Hall, or Jonathan Hall, or Mark Lawson, or Lou and Vicki. There's a lot of people in the room that have worked on this platform over the last. Tanya wrote some of these, didn't you? Yeah. So what we did this year is we just kind of reworded them. We took out some stuff that didn't matter anymore, like Mary Fallon, some things that we... And we had some very specific wording in the 2015 and 2017 platform that we just crafted a little differently to make it a little more palatable, maybe. We will discuss, consider, and approve the platform as a whole as it currently stands. Did anybody find a typo? Are we missing a word? Yes.
Under the page 1, Creek County Republican Party believes, number 3, we should insert the word be between the word should and revered.
Okay, so it currently reads that the family is the cornerstone of communities and should revered respect. Okay, be.
Where is that?
Do we need any more?
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, first page.
I'm going to insert the word be. Can we do a voice vote on that one? Vote acclamation?
What,
It's a typo.
No, it's a typo. You
It's a
don't
typo.
do it anyway.
We need to vote on that one. Yes, sir.
I had a question on plank 14. It says, opposed to transfer of wealth to any foreign governments. So would that say that we're opposed to supporting Israel? Because it says any foreign government.
Israel doesn't need our money. Our military alliances, our economic alliances, but we're talking about cold hard cash. We can't continue to spend the way we're spending. That was the expression that we got from the different platform meetings. We just really can't. We love Israel. We love lots of, but when you hear USAID, and is that coming out of our federal budget, and that's our tax dollars? That's not money that was donated by Bill Gates or the Koch brothers for a good cause. That's our money. And so, yeah, I think we need to start taking a hard line on these giveaways. If we want to give them some tanks, that's, you know, if we send them some help for, Red Cross can send them some help.
But wouldn't defense spending fit into that? I mean, giving them tanks would fit
Well,
into that.
we'll let them borrow it, lend lease. Let's go back to that. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had a great idea to lend them our hose. A situation like that, it's still our tank. They're just borrowing.
We just don't want a jet load of cash.
Right, yeah, I get
Agree,
that. I just,
Yeah.
President Barack Obama with the pallet full of cash that was that our money. And
right.
In the middle of the night.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't.
Is there a better way to word it? Because if you'll remember back to 2016, we had several presidential candidates. And they all said, no money. Ted Cruz was one of those that said, I won't give any money to anybody.
Right.
Ron Paul, we're not giving anybody any of our money. We need to keep our money in America. American cars run on American oil, and American troops and dollars belong on American soil. That's my hardline stance. I'm way right though.
Can I remind you they did not win?
Thank you, Dee.
Yeah, they didn't win. Yes.
Rob just won though.
I didn't tell anybody how far right I was before I went. Do we have a better way to word it? Do we need to? We have time for discussion. Do we have many people in here that feel the same way about that plank? Want to raise your hand?
I'm kind of in agreement
You're in agreement that it's.
So what does it need to say?
with monies instead of wealth.
I agree with the change today, because that's what the concern is about cash money being transferred, not
Cash.
Say money, so it would be cash.
All right.
Do
We
you
change
wanna
that one
change it,
word.
or do you want to take it out?
We're gonna tweak it.
Tanks are good.
That makes,
We can put it to a vote. So, will you read the new amendment as proposed?
yeah.
I proposed, changing point 14 to recognizes our national debt is over 22 trillion, imposes the transfer of monies from the U.S. taxpayers to any foreign governments, usually referred to as a foreign aid.
So you're just changing wealth to monies?
Yeah, that's generally referred to as, what's the word I want? It's an amendment, but it doesn't really change the meaning, so it's not something usually, well, who else here from the platform committee?
Me and Ken.
And if you two are in agreement that it's a friendly amendment that really doesn't change the meaning, but.
Sounds good to me.
I'm good with it.
All right, we're good with it.
I don't even think you need to vote on it. You could, but.
Does this include any humanitarian aid as in monies, or is that considered something else?
No, humanitarian aid is completely different. Because humanitarian aid is typically from nonprofits, not our government.
Okay, I was thinking of those aids and stuff like that we've contributed to those countries that need that support and or.
There is in the Constitution that the federal government has the right to do that.
We'll make the change to the word monies. And we'll address it again in a couple of years. Maybe in a couple of years we'll have so much cash we won't care.
Ron, are there other ways though, as far as the word wealth? Wealth is not just money.
No, I think we're just worried about money. That's why we're changing it to money. So we'll accept that as a friendly amendment if you want to change it on your paperwork. Is everyone in agreement? A show of hands. In agreement up? Disagreement?
I just think there's different forms of wealth. That's not.
No, but
I
they changed it,
understand
it's
totally
been changed,
what
it's
you're
just changed, it says monies.
Yeah.
saying. What?
Right, monies.
Yeah, I did
Strike
that.
out wealth, white money.
I did that.
We're good.
But
We don't want them to
that's
have our
not
Cal or
wealth.
cotton
That's-
either.
You're missing my point. There's other forms of wealth.
Any other, a small change?
Hey, I'm not voting against that, by the way. I'm just trying to discuss it.
So with the tweaks that we've made, is everybody gonna be, you know, like Ronald Reagan, you know, if it's not 100% yours, if it's 80% yours, does that make it 20% you hate it, 20% your enemy? If we agree with each other 80% of the time, I think that this is something we can hold our federal and local elected officials accountable to, those things. So yeah.
But you had an amendment, right? To the.
Yeah, at this time, we're gonna go ahead and vote to approve the platform proposal that was presented as it is. And then we'll have an opportunity to add additional planks separately. So, I do, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve the Tree County Republican Party 2019 platform proposed, as written with the two changes, adding the word "be" and striking "wealth" and entering "money."
Got all that? Lou
What's your
Martin?
name?
Lou Martin. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
And your name?
Royce Webster.
Royce Webster. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, now we've got these fancy forms. I printed a bunch of them for additional planks to the platform. This is something that is extra, something that you're here because you have a pet issue. This is your opportunity, and I know you guys need one. SB 13, did y'all write yours already? No? Let me write that one. And does anybody else need one? You need one? You got something you want to put in there? And I wrote one, but I need signatures on it, because it says right here you gotta have at least 5 people agree with it. So this is your opportunity to get a little more coffee, head to the restroom, visit with your neighbors, find out if there's something else you want to slide in there. In the past, we've done resolution. Now, it doesn't have to be a platform plank. It can be a resolution. Like we're resolved to support Governor Kevin Stitt. That's just a resolution. And have a binding power. It's only going to last for 2 years, 4 years. We can slide in a resolution. Has anybody had one?
Okay, I'm going to conclude this. Thank you for participating in the Free County Convention 2019.